And I love hearing people's stories on how they first began because you don't always hear it, right? And I know you moved from Nebraska to New York in your early 20s. So tell me what that period of your life was like.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot for some reason during quarantine. I've been like sort of reminiscing and getting sort of nostalgic about like some of the first days, my first days in New York. But yeah, it was definitely very different for me. I came from a really small town in Nebraska. My parents, I was talking to someone about this the other day, my parents had never even been to New York City before I moved there. So it was really, almost like a different, country to me or something, just like taking the subway and trying to find an apartment and all of that. But yeah, it was also a really exciting time. I feel like I didn't really have a lot to lose in a certain way. Like it wasn't like there was ever this sort of like, well, I would say in Nebraska or something, there was always sort of this feeling of like, okay, well, at a certain point, I'll move to New York, I'll move to LA, I'll continue to act and sing and find a way to do that. But yeah, those first days were just like, just the logistics of it, of like I worked at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, and I had a few friends who were in New York, so I was able to sort of like jump around, stay with people. But my first days of like acting and stuff, I just would get backstage. It used to come out every Thursday. And I would just go through the auditions and circle the ones I thought I was right for. And I knew about backstage because of like studying theater in college. And so that was my, at the time, I don't even think they had, and Playbill.com. I remember one of my first auditions was for Kids Bop on Playbill.com or something like that. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I really wasn't super well connected, but I just kind of would like try things. And then, as I went along, I would sort of start to see the same casting directors, and then I'd meet an actor friend and they'd be like, oh, well, I have an agent, like you should do that. I sort of just, you kind of slowly start to piece together what's going on. I guess.
Yeah.
It was very disorienting, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just kind of tried stuff,
And for you, you sing, you act. What is it about performing in general that you love?
Yeah, there's so many things. I really love the way like the world sort of stops. Like I love, just I've always loved in theater, like the moment when all the lights go down and everybody's listening and we're all kind of like focused on this one story. Like I just feel like there's something really special, almost religious like for me about a stage and people coming together as a community and performing. And I also kind of a philosophy for me in music and acting and performing in general has always been, when you tell the story of really ordinary things and you put it on stage, or you write a song about just like your morning coffee, or you write a song about the person you're in love with, or things that seem very everyday, I feel like they become more special. So I've always felt like performing and telling stories was a way to sort of like make us feel connected and also make us realize like how special just even everyday things are.
And we have a lot of The Walking Dead fans, obviously, in here today. So we have to get to some of The Walking Dead conversation. Obviously, you played Beth Green on the show. You were running around trying to survive the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
For you, what were some of your favorite memories from The Walking Dead?
I have so many favorite memories. But some ones I've been thinking about were one of my it wasn't one of my first days on set, but within the first season 2 was when I joined the cast. And in that first season, there was a scene where, The Walking Dead fans will know, but where Sophia comes out of the barn, and it was one of the first days where I got to shoot with everyone in the cast. And it was a really like emotional scene. And it was also one of the first scenes that I'd been a part of where it was like very epic. Like there were crane shots and like everybody, like the set was just like full of people trying to help because there were so many zombie extras. And I feel like that was I remember being in the van and pulling away that day and being like, whoa, I've never been a part of, I had worked on different television shows, but it just hit me like, wow, this is a really special show, just not in like feeling connected to the other actors, but also, like I said, big, huge crane shots and all the extras, and just feeling like, wow, this is special and like big,
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the highest rated shows on cable TV ever. I mean, fans just love this show so much. So, to you, from your perspective, why do you think the show resonated with so many people and there's such fandom around it?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you had like the comic book fans. Robert Kirkman created such a cool series, and so there were already people so invested in those graphic novels and the characters that he had created. But I think also, I mean, even just the world we live in now, this sort of like people connected to this idea of what if all the structures that we've built to sort of, that we've gotten used to in our everyday life, like what if they are gone? What is the point of like life now? What are we doing when we're just trying to survive? And there's just a lot of big conversations, I think, that are able to come up in the context of, a zombie apocalypse. I also think there's so many different kinds of people and characters on the show. And I think that people connect with that, you just look at the cast, it's so big and diverse. And I think that so many people connected because they could find a character that they were like, oh, that's like me. And so, yeah, but yeah. I guess there's something for everyone, because there's sort of like, the drama and like the exciting like stuff of like the zombies and fighting the zombies, but there's so many also just like beautiful shots and like through a doorway, watching two people talk. And like I said, I really appreciate moments of just like more simple things. They have so many moments of just two people talking it out, what they're going through. So I just think people were able to connect in a really special way.
And what you guys did, I mean, the amount of work that this show must have taken with all the physicality of it and the running around and the emotional roller coaster. I mean, you guys, you put in a lot of work. So for you, what were some of your more, challenging scenes or memorable scenes because you remember how much it kind of took for you to do them?
Yeah. The last season that I was on, there was a lot of stuff, like people who are tuning in that know the show, there's a lot of stuff with like an elevator where I like fall down an elevator and just like a lot of physical stuff. And I remember that being really difficult and challenging, but also really fun. Like I always really appreciated the physical stuff because I felt like I didn't have to, it sort of like infused the scene with a certain energy. And like when we're outside and we're all gross and sweaty, like it is actually super hot and I really am actually gross and sweaty, so I don't have to like, like I don't have to act that. Like it sort of like just happens naturally. So I actually felt like that aspect of the show made my job easier. It definitely like prepared me, like you said, it's long days on set. It definitely prepared me for the future. And like when I think of acting, I think of like, oh, this is gonna take, I mean, of course, but I think with Walking Dead especially, this is gonna be something that's gonna take all of me, like all of my energy. When I come home at the end of the day, I'm gonna be wiped out. I'm gonna take a shower and just sleep so hard, because like, so that's how now I feel like I brought that into my work after Walking Dead. Like, I just assume that I'm going to be so drained at the end of it, you know, and I love that, like, feeling, because it makes
It's
you
like an accomplished day.
yeah, yeah. But now I realize too, sometimes I'll be on things where it's like a little lighter, or like a comedy or something, you know, and then you're like, oh, weird, like I'm not just like complete. I wasn't crying all day, so like, you know, and I feel like I could do something after being on set, or you know, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look back at your time on that show, what's something that you're most proud of?
Hmm. Um, I remember doing the there's an episode that's just me and it's Beth and Daryl, and the whole episode is just our little journey. And I remembered at the beginning getting that script and being like, okay, it's only me and Norman Reedus, and feeling definitely a bit nervous of just like basically carrying the whole hour of the show, you know. And I remember finishing up that episode and being like, yeah, feeling like proud, you know, being like, oh wow, like we did it, we made it, and all the ups and downs we had to go through that particular episode but yeah, it was such a good opportunity. But I think it,
What
like, you know, I was like, oh, I can do it, you know, like it pushed me in a certain way.
that there were online petitions, multiple online petitions trying to get you back from the dead
Yeah.
because people just loved you so much. And I imagine I'm fascinated by this concept of transition, right? So you were on this force of a show like The Walking Dead, and then you moved on to a new chapter of your life. So what was that period like for you?
Yeah, actually, the very first year after leaving Walking Dead was so busy. I had just put out an album, so it seemed like there were and you know there was so much interest in, I guess, like Beth and me, you know, and so I was trying to take every opportunity and do everything. And then also I was moving because at the time I had an apartment in Atlanta, so I was also sort of making this transition of like kind of moving all my boxes and just everything back up to New York, and like I said, all this like traveling. So that first year was actually so busy. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of been I definitely like missed the show. But it's like it took a minute for me to, like, now sometimes I'll miss it almost like that first bit was really busy, and I didn't really know how to, like, what's the best choice, you know, after coming off of a show like that. You don't really know till you've done it, and since it's the first time I had been on a show that big before, you know, I didn't know totally how to, like, the right way to, like, pick the next job, or,
Yeah.
you know, I still struggle with that because you do what feels right in the moment, you know, and, yeah, so, but I'm lucky because I did have so many, you know, I still have just, like, really great agents and friends and people that I really trust.
Do you have any survival kits lying around your home?
I mean, I have a lot of food because I feel like right when coronavirus stuff happened, my sister was like, you need to buy like tons of like pasta and food and she's in New York I had, because that's when I was doing Walking Dead, was when I lived in New York, and I had so many like survival kits because that was always like the gift, you know, if I like went on like I don't know, if I went on Talking Dead or went to whatever TV show, they'd be like, we got you a zombie survival kit, you know, and it'd have all these like water purifying drops and like, you know, camping gear and toilet paper and stuff like that. So I had more of that when I lived in New York, but then when I moved to LA, I got rid of some things. But
Do you have a favorite episode from The Walking Dead?
Yeah, that one is hard. To watch, I guess, or act. Man, I don't know.
There's so
I
many.
like the whole first, like, I loved that first season that I wasn't in. I watched that like multiple times. I'll just pick the whole first season.